Welcome, viewers! Have you just started getting into Magic the Gathering? Or are you just finally tired of using a pre-constructed deck? Great news for you! I'm here today to show you how to make a deck of your very own. The first thing that you should do when making a deck is answering one question. What kind of deck am I interested in playing with? For me, there are many examples of different cards and types that I enjoy playing with. But for this example, the answer to that question is a Vampire Tribal deck. A tribal deck usually consists of one type of creature that can work really well amongst itself. On the plane of Ixalan, vampires were a very well made tribal set, so I have many different cards to choose from. But where do I start? Since I know that I want to use a Vampire Tribal, I should now choose a few of them that I think would be really great in a deck. I've picked out Arvad the Cursed from Dominaria. He's a Death Touch 3/3 that makes other legendary creatures stronger. Twilight Prophet from Rivals of Ixalan. It's a flying 2/4 with the Ascend ability that lets you drain your opponent's life for the converted mana cost of a card that you reveal from the top of your deck, if you have City's Blessing. Next, I chose Forerunner of the Legion, also from Rivals. It's a 2/2 Vampire Knight that when played allows you to find a vampire in your deck and put it on top of for you to draw next. It also allows you to temporarily make one of your creatures stronger when another vampire comes into play. And finally, Bishop of the Binding, also from Rivals of Ixalan. When this one enters the battlefield, it exiles an opponent's creature until that bishop has left the battlefield. On top of that, when the bishop attacks, it can give the power of the creature that was exiled to a vampire that is attacking, including itself. Now that I have a baseline for my deck, I can start filling in the rest of it. I want a lot of creatures in this deck, so I'm going to pick some out that are relatively inexpensive in terms of mana cost, so that I can get them out onto the battlefield to overrun my opponent. I've gone with 2 vampires that only cost 1 mana, 5 vampires that cost 2 mana, 3 of them are the same card, 4 creatures that cost 3 mana, 1 isn't a vampire per se, but he has a life drain ability and it matches the colors of the deck. I've also picked out 2 creatures that cost 4 mana, they're the same card, and 1 that costs 5 mana. It is very important that you have a wide range of mana costing creatures so that you aren't stuck with a bunch of weaker ones near the end of the game, or a bunch of very expensive mana cost creatures at the beginning. Now that we've gone through creatures, we can start adding instants, sorceries, enchantments, and artifacts that build up and support our vampire army. I really just went with cards that fit the vampire theme for a lot of these, but there are a few that were selected for their powerful effects as well. In reality, not everyone is going to be picking the same types of cards for their decks, so I'm just giving an example for you to build off of. After you pick out your creatures and fill in the gaps with all of these other types of cards, you're going to pick out your lands. In this case, the color of cards that I've been picking so far have been black and white mana costing cards. Because of that, I went to get lands that will support them specifically. Plains and swamps, as the basic lands, are going to be picked. On average, a deck will have between 22 and 25 lands. I've only picked out 19 lands for this deck. That is low, but it fits with my playing style personally. Now that you've picked out all of the cards for your deck, you may actually end up with more than 60, which is all your deck will allow. You're going to need to go through and thin the herd out a little so that it can be 60 cards. I usually struggle with this the first few times. How I make sure that I pick the right cards is to play a few games with a new deck with another player, making notes the entire time about what I personally liked and disliked about playing with the deck. Then, if your opponent is willing, you should also ask them to play with the deck and see if you come up with similar answers, especially if that player is more seasoned than you. Make adjustments as you keep playing with it. until you are happy with how it works. You are allowed to have a side deck of up to 15 cards in most cases as well. So if you need to adjust your deck based on the kind of deck that you are playing against, you can have some cards readily available to do that. I also like to carry around some token cards with my deck so that when I have a card with an effect that makes tokens, I can have an accurate representation of that token. These do not count toward your deck size, but they are a nice way to show that you care a little bit more about the deck that you took so much time to make. Thank you for watching this tutorial on deck building, and please be sure to leave a comment or a thumbs up if you found this video helpful. I want to also mention that the introduction that you see today is brand new. If you liked it, please be sure to let me know. If you didn't like it, please tell us why and what we can do to improve it. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.